Right, welcome back. So we've stuck the bit of glass trim in place there, just into the gel coat. So that's just adhering to that whilst it's sitting there, basically. So I've got to start glassing this now, lay a layer in to level it up to the same level, and then glass over the lot, get that all set in place. So that's what we're going to do now. I've got the glass all cut out, ready to go. I'm going to mix up some resin, and then we're going to crack on. Right, so just mixed up some resin. I've mixed it up with what, basically the gel coat pot. It's the same stuff. Basically what I've now got is white pigmented resin. So my resin will just cure white, basically. So brushed on and spread out. I don't want too much of this to disappear underneath it, if I can help it. I've got gel coat under there. We'll see. It'll work or it won't. I dare say the gel coat here could have done with a little bit longer to set up, but as usual, I'm running out of time, so that ain't happening. So we'll do what we can do as quick as we can do it. So about now I should be heading home. But it's actually, it always takes longer than you think it will. And I'm just starting laying up the glass, but so roughly I suppose it's going to take me half hour ish to get this all on. I'm trying not to move the gel coat underneath. I want that to run off the end. It doesn't matter if I mess up the gel coat finish on the other side when I peel it off. It really doesn't matter too much. Because like I say, this is just going to get glassed in place and I'm going to be sanding it all down, and you know, it's got lots of finishing to do before I get to that stage anyway. So right, so now I want my thin piece. I'll lay that in there. That's just going to build that up. Just building up this side over the plastic to level it out a bit, to bring the glass up to the similar thickness as the fiberglass trim there that we're using for the radius corner. I say the other way I could have done this would have been, as I said before, to radius the corner on the mould, which might work better overall. You know, it's a lot more work on the mould and it might give me a better finish. Could be worth the extra work, but I didn't have anything to make a radius with. The only way I could do that is with filler, but I was thinking, well, will the filler stick to the plastic? I could key it up, I suppose. I might alter it. I'll see how this comes out. I might have to alter it and improve the mould. We'll just have to wait and see. There you go. So there's my first layers on. Now I can get my second layer on there, overlapping the two sections into one there. Just take that down a bit. More splodge on that. Need a lot more resin on that because I can see it's starting to draw through, but it's a little dry still, so I don't want a resin rich layer because that will just be brittle. But it does need to be wet enough, you know. Right up to the ends. I don't want too much resin going over the end of the piece, because what happens is it runs over the side and it locks the part on the mould. So I just want to go up to the edge. I don't want it too much going over the edge. So what we're doing is we're drawing the resin up from underneath through the cloth, and we're squashing the air out from one end to the other as we go. Right. Put a little bit more resin on there. Place that other bit of cloth on there. Overlapping that one. And as we work that on, that will draw that up. Not bad. Right. A little roll. We can get all the layers on and then roll it. But sometimes I like to just roll the layers that you've got on. Make sure you've got no air trapped in there. Makes it just a bit easier to get the air out than trying to do it all in one go. At this stage I'm not trying to remove the excess resin too much because I've got another layer to go on, so I'll just leave the resin on there. I just want to make sure the cloth's down nice and tight on the mould without air in it. So I'm leaving that resin there, that excess resin. With that pigmentation you can probably see the resin a little better as well. It's on the video. So what I've done on the last one is I used a bonding paste as I stuck the part down to lose the transition there. What I'm trying to do on this one is build it up with a glass to make it a bit more level and see how that works. You know, it might work better, it might work worse, I don't know at the moment. We will find out. So this is a trial and error, it is what it is. Right, so that's one side done. Stick my fingers in it, flip her over, do the other side. Wispy bits that are hanging in my face. what that'll do is if it hangs over too much, it'll start pulling the cloth down. So I can get a good puddle of resin on here, but I don't want it all just running off the side, you know. As most of you know, the quicker you get the resin out of the tub, the more working time you've got with it. The thicker the amount of resin you've got in a tub, the quicker it will go off. And the temperature will go up faster the more you've got sitting around in a tub. I'll say, we'll make this part and we'll see how it comes out. I might have to change how I do the next one. I might need to use a bit of bonding paste on the edge there to help it transition to avoid air. We will see. But at the moment it's looking good. I think we'll be alright. Snotty glass there, I don't want that in there because what that'll do is it'll give me a lump. I don't want lumps in it. So what I'm trying to do now is just spread out the resin without moving the gel coat. To try and get a fairly uniform thickness. I've run that quite close, but not right up to the edge. Almost, and already it's starting to run towards it, look. Because once I put my glass on and start rolling it out, it's going to squash that out anyway. The thin layer, that will now stop that from running all over the place. At the moment it's all moving around, it's not tied down at all, it's just floating on top of that resin, so you don't want to drag it around too much. I'm just tapping it down so the resin starts coming through it. That starts holding it in place. And it's drawing that resin up from underneath through the cloth, same as we did on the other side. And then work from the middle out one way, back the other, squashing the air out the sides as we go. So I'm using the brush quite flat rather than stippling, because in my mind, when I'm stippling, I'm pushing that glass right down into the gel coat. If I use the brush like that, I'm still squashing it along, pushing the air out towards the end, but it's a flat surface, slapping on a flat surface. It's not putting dimples in it, so I'm hoping that will not damage the gel coat underneath. That's my little theory, and I'm sticking with it. So usually I'd stipple it, but because I've got quite soft gel coat under there, I'm just using it flat. The only issue is obviously when it's flat it can create more vacuum, suction and lift glass, especially near the edges, so might not work near the edges. You might have to just go up on end at the edge, you know, just to go round the edgy bits and make sure they're all down. But it looks to me like that's worked pretty darn well. Right, so now we've got our first layer on. So I don't want to drag this around. I'll just push it around with a thin roller, so I'm not moving the glass about too much. So we just put our next layer on there. Right, so this one's going onto the edge here, and it should just roll into that corner. So now they're both going into that corner. Where I tore that, them fibres are now interlocking. So we're right together there now, interlocking. I'll grab the sticky corner. Not bad with a resin, I need a little bit more. And I've still got one more layer to go, so I'll have to knock some up for that anyway. So we've got resin underneath now to draw up. So once we work this down, poke the cloth down, that resin underneath should come up through the cloth. You should see it start wetting out. Not bad, not bad. This thicker layer has definitely drunk that a lot more though, so I'm definitely going to need a bit more on here. So not a lot, but definitely a bit. See that slapping there with that second layer, it's lifting that glass around the edge there. So I'm going to have to stick with it slightly, but not bad. Worked well on the first layer. It's working well on the second layer in the middle where there's more resin, but as it's slapping the edge, it lifts a little bit. Not terrible, but a little bit, so be warned. Right, get some more resin knocked up and we'll crack on. Right, here we go. Now we're going to get this next bit on in a second. Just going to get a bit more resin on here. Not quite enough on this one. And like I say, we've got to get that next layer on anyway. And that will soak up all the excess. Making sure there's no air bubbles in that recess there. And we're going to roll it out anyway, so it doesn't matter. Right. I'll try and get some on this side. We'll flip it and pour some over the other side so we can lay that other bit in one go. That's the plan. Roll this one out. I don't, like I say, need to roll this. I can roll it all together in one, but we're just sort of checking the layers that I've put down now. I mean, the more layers you've got, you probably want to consolidate them as you go rather than all in one if you're doing multiple layers, but this is only a couple of layers that I'm doing, so I would get away with it, but even still. But nice and slow, I'm not putting any pressure on that, I'm just letting the roller do the work. I know the camera can't see right up to this end. Small boat, I've got no room, I can't move the camera back any further. Well, I could if I tied it up, but at the moment that's not happening. Right. And don't forget, the more resin and layers that you put on this, the faster it's going to go off. Now I've got to be careful here. I need to flip this back the other way, but I don't want to stick my hands in the wet stuff. I want to get some resin on this side. I know what will happen, I'll drop that. I want some resin on this side. I'll pour that along the top edge. Bear with me. Like so. Ta-da! That all runs down. You can spread it out a bit more evenly. Excuse elbows. You can see what's going on. There we are. That's really soaking in to there. And we've got that rolled out. A little bit more resin for the next layer. I'm not pushing on the cloth at all. I'm literally just pushing the resin on the surface. I'm not pushing down to roll the cloth. I'm literally scooting across the surface just on the resin. It might brush it slightly, but you know, I'm not trying to move the cloth at all. There we go. Right, next. So, centre. There's a lap in there. Just want to make sure we've got enough to meet to both ends. Push it into the corner where we know we've got plenty of resin. Look, see that resin coming through. Enough cloth sticking just to make the end this side, a bit more overlap that end. I don't want to drag it around now because that's going to move the layers underneath that we've put down. All that through. Look, we can draw up the resin that's there. We'll see if we need any more. That's fine. We've got plenty of resin there. So just spreading that resin around at the moment. And rolling it out. Right. Gently. So I want to make sure the cloth's into the corner of the edge, the radius. Technically it's not a corner, it's not 90 degrees, but let's not be too fussy. So what I don't want to do is roll this out and roll that out, but the glass is lifted in the edge there. Sometimes as you roll it back, it just draws the cloth out of the radius. So pretty good. Bit dry on this end still. A little bit more resin now, I think. Flip my back. Right, so now I'm just going to roll that out. Should be like the final rolling, just checking for air. Making sure that we're flat to the mould. And that there's no air in the radius there before we leave. I've not got too much overhang on the top. If you've got too much overhang on top, what will happen is it will start falling down and then it will peel the glass away from the mould, and you'll come back and it will all be set, all skewed over. So don't have too much overhang on your workpiece. I found that out. Life's about making mistakes and learning from them. We all make mistakes. This might work, it might not. It might be a mistake. The way I did it last time worked, it wasn't a mistake, but I'm thinking I could do it better. So we'll give this a try. We'll try it this way and see how it works. It'll work or it won't, or it might work, but I might be able to do it better still. Well, that's life, you know. What works for one person doesn't work for someone else. Doesn't work for everyone. We're all different. We're all individual. Draw a bit at the top there. That's it. Right, so the top's done. I'll lay that back down. Kind of check the bottom's finished. Looks pretty good. Little excess resin there. Look, see, it looks lovely. Doesn't look like any excess there until you roll it and consolidate those layers. And as you do so, that excess resin comes through the glass along with any air, and it's just rolled out. I'm just going to roll that to the edge and leave it there. That will be sanded off or trimmed off on that bit of glass. Well, I'm not pushing down on this. I'm just using the weight of the roller and a very light pressure just with my thumb, if anything, yeah. I'm not pushing down, yeah. Just keeping it flat and even. Rolling it out. Little dry spot there. That a little bit more. Make sure the resin's worked through the cloth, yeah. Not just sitting on it. You might get a few little bits raising on your radius where the roller pulls it. Don't worry too much about them, as long as you ain't got an air pocket. You can sand them off afterwards. Sometimes you end up just pulling more. The more you try to roll them out, the more you just end up pulling the glass up. You're better to just leave it, let it set up and sand them off. I'll do it myself. I'll keep going over it and over it and over it, trying to get rid of any little imperfection, you know. But in reality, sometimes I think you can be a bit too fussy. It's better to just leave it and let it set. If you need to replace a bit, do it again. Just let it set up, sand it down, put another bit of glass on. It's not the end of the world. It's a good thing about fiberglass. You can always repair it, alter it, change it. You see that looks perfect, doesn't it? Yeah, it's like there's no excess resin there until you put your roller there and you do that. And even from that distance, I can see on the camera that excess resin, look, just rolling out to the edge with that pigmentation in there from the gel coat. You can see the resin a bit better. That's it. So I'm doing what I've talked about. I'm just going over it, trying to lose any little imperfections if I can. And again, you've got to do that before it starts going tacky. Once it starts tacking up, you'll end up just pulling the glass up and making it worse again. So just want to make sure it's all down. There's no air. Your excess isn't leaning forwards, pulling it off the mould. It's not an issue. If it does, it does. You know, you can sand it down. As I say, you know, you can always rub it down, redo that bit, put a bit more glass in there. It's just easier to not give yourself extra work to start with. Right, I'm going to leave that alone now. That looks perfect to me, so I've got to get all that excess resin off of there. I've got the acetone already in there. Give that a good wash out, wipe it over. I made that in myself. I made it a loose fit so that the acetone fits behind it. I haven't got to keep stripping it down every time I want to use it, every time I clean it. Right, that's me done, guys. Thank you all for watching Life of Dave. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you can share it amongst your friends and everything as well, so that you know, maybe get a few more viewers, would be much appreciated. Not been going too long now, so yeah, we've got a few subscribers, not loads. You know, we ain't hitting any magic numbers yet, but we're getting there. And at the end of the day, if I can help people out, inspire people to do their own projects, you know, if you've got any questions or anything like that that you want to ask, you know, you can. Or if you just want to say, looking good, you know, well done, or even if like you're doing it wrong, you know, you should do it this way, or you know, any advice or anything like that, you know, it's all welcome. Keep it polite. No need to be nasty. But no, you know what I mean, it's all good. Right, that's me done, guys. I'm just getting cleaned up and I'm out of here. Got a lot of editing to do. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. My name's Dave. You've been watching Life of Dave. Catch you all next time.